Welcome to the online information session with regard to the graduate programs in political science at the University of Western Ontario. We're going to do a couple things today. Talk a little bit about some etiquette in terms of managing the session today. I'll give you an overview of the department, about what kinds of things we do and the kinds of faculty and students that we have. I'll talk a little bit about why you should choose Western. I'll give you an overview of our master's and PhD programs, talk a little bit about placement outcomes, and then we'll do a Q&A session at the end where we'll answer your questions. So today, I'll be your presenter. I'm Professor Chris Alcantara. I'm a professor in the department. I'm also the graduate chair of the program. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about the department at a glance. We have 24 full-time faculty members, and so that includes teaching faculty. That includes assistant professors who are junior faculty members that we've hired. We have associate professors who are mid-career professors, and then we have full professors. So we have all the ranks, and we cover all the subfields, which I'll talk about in a moment. In terms of our graduate program, typically we let in 20 to 25 MA students in political science in a typical year, and in the PhD program, we let in 4 to 8 doctoral students a year. In terms of the subfields, so we cover all of the major subfields. We cover Canadian politics, so the study of our domestic politics in Canada and all aspects of Canadian politics, including the study of the state, the study of society. We also cover comparative politics, the study of similar questions, but across countries, across units, across space, across time. We also cover the subfield of international relations, the politics of international politics. We do political theory, so we cover normative political theory, and with this, with specific emphasis on questions about global justice and critical theory. And then what makes us really unique is that we also include a subfield in urban politics and local governance. We've long been the place for the study of this issue area, and we've produced a lot of graduates and professors in that area. Besides these subfields, we also offer a number of research centers and groups, which is made up of faculty members and graduate students, sometimes undergraduate students from our department, but from other departments as well. So there's a list here of some of the things we do. Let me just point out a couple of them. We have the 2019 Canadian Election Study. This is a major research project. It's an honor for universities and researchers to get that. And so Professor Laura Stevenson, along with Alison Harrell, Peter Lowen, and Daniel Rubinson. But Professor Stevenson is our faculty member, and she and her group are running the Canadian Elections, which is a big, huge survey of attitudes, opinions, beliefs, and behavior with respect to how people voted in the last election. So we had that study here, lots of opportunities to get, first chance to use that data if you come here. It's a very exciting thing. We also have the Computational and Quantitative Social Science Research Center, which is run by our Canada Research Chair in Political Methodology, Dr. Dave Armstrong, and they're looking at advanced quantitative techniques and the use of big data techniques and computers to solve all sorts of social and political problems. If you're a political theorist, you'll want to get involved in the Moral, Political, and Legal Philosophy group, which brings together philosophers and political theorists to talk about issues of justice. There's also a Transitional Justice and Post-Conflict Resolution group led by one of our professors, Dr. Joanne Quinn. And this place is the leading place for studying issues relating to communities that are going through transitions and trying to regime transitions and are trying to ensure that justice is served by that in post-conflict areas. So a great program. And then finally, we have actually a research center that fits our subfield of urban politics and local governance. So, and that research group, again, it was drawn from other faculties as well, and they look at issues of local government in Canada, the United States, and elsewhere. So why come to Western? Let me just tell you why we think this is a great place. There's lots of great reasons to come here. The Faculty of Social Science is ranked among the top 100 in the world for the last number of years. So you're coming to a top-ranked research place where the entire faculty is producing top-notch research, and you'll benefit from that infrastructure and access to a variety of faculty members, students, and resources. At Western, we also have developed an innovative program called Own Your Future program that focuses on PhD students, and they're rolling it out for the master's students. And the idea is to help graduate students develop skills, but also be able to articulate those skills to academic employers and non-academic employers. So whether you're going for an academic job or non-academic job, the Own Your Future program, which is a university-wide program, is aimed to help you outside of our own program to develop and articulate skills that are marketable in the academic and non-academic world. We also offer collaborative specializations where you can do a degree in political science and do some extra bit of work depending on whether you're doing a master's or a PhD, to do a specialization in transitional justice, for instance. You want to do political science and have a concentration in transitional justice, you can add that onto your degree as necessary. And then also in the city of London, this is it's a great city to live in. It's very affordable compared to some other places in Canada. Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal are great places to live, but they can be very expensive. London is not so expensive compared to these other places, generally speaking. It's centrally located. We're close to Toronto. We're close to the States. There's lots of things to do here in terms of it's a big city located, with lots of outdoorsy things to do. So, our students really enjoy that. Our faculty enjoy this kind of combination of things about the city of London. Why political science at Western? One of the things is that our faculty are publishing in the best journals, the best university presses in the world. So we have faculty members who are publishing in the American Political Science Review, the APSR, which is the top journal in the discipline, followed by the American Journal of Political Science. So we have faculty members who are publishing in these places. We have faculty members publishing in the best university presses, like Oxford University Press, Cambridge University Press. So we know how to produce the best research. We know how to publish the best research. And so coming here, you have the advantage of working with faculty members who can publish in the best places, whether it's the best journals or presses in political science, or whether it's the best journals in your subfield, whether it's about elections or about Canadian politics or social movements. Our people here are able to do these things and are able to publish in these places, and you'll be able to work with us in doing that. So that leads me to the second thing is there are lots of opportunities to do interesting things, both in research and teaching. So on the research side, a large proportion of our faculty members engage in co-authorship with graduate students, both at the master's level and at the PhD level. So for instance, I've been writing a number of papers with MA and PhD students, and we've published them in journals. So there's lots of opportunities for co-authorship. Our faculty members are always looking for our grad students and giving them opportunities to do research as research assistants to support our research. Also, in terms of co-authorship, we have a real culture of that's growing here at Western. Our students are co-authoring with each other. So PhD students and master's students are co-authoring with each other. We encourage that by giving opportunities to think through those works and to think through those projects. So there's a real culture of co-authorship at Western that we're trying to cultivate, and it's growing. There's lots of opportunities for research assistants. A number of our faculty members are always applying for research grants, and we always turn to our graduate students because we're perhaps a smaller program than some other places. That means there's more opportunities for you. If there's 24 faculty members and there's 30 graduate students, there's lots of opportunities for. We also will give you opportunities to be a teaching assistant at the master's level and at the PhD level. So if you're a master's student, we tend to put you into teaching assistant opportunities in the first year class, where you'll be running tutorials, you'll be helping to grade assignments. If you're a PhD student, we tend to try to put you into the second year classes as teaching assistants. Another thing that makes Western really different, I think this is really important, is that we provide, I think, one of the most comprehensive research methods training programs in the country. But not only is it the most comprehensive, it's the most accessible. So we know that a lot of students, or some students, are scared about methods. And so our approach to that is it's not about burying people in math and method. It's about creating the conditions under which you can learn. So to put it this way, for instance, a lot of students are scared of methods. They're very afraid of math. They take our methods courses, and it's the highest grade of all their graduate courses that they get. And they've learned tons of skills. We've had a number of students who are extremely scared and come out of it loving research methods. So, you know, one example we have is a PhD student who was very concerned about the methods training, and was asking about how he can get out of it, and, you know, do I just have to pass to get through it? And you know, he's a qualitative student, a hardcore qualitative student. He took the courses, he loved it. He found it accessible. He found that it was focused on teaching you skills rather than scaring you with math or programming, or scaring you with tests and stuff. It was, instead, the curriculum was built to teach you real skills and to help you learn these skills. And this student came out of it loving methods. He's writing a qualitative dissertation, but he has a paper, a quantitative paper under review at the best journal of the discipline, and got a revised resubmit, which is almost unheard of. A single authored paper by a graduate student in the APSR, and it's got a revised resubmit. And that's what we're trying to do here at Western, is we're trying to give you the most comprehensive training, research training you can get in quantitative and qualitative methods. But we're trying to do it in a very different way than has traditionally been done, which is we want to actually, you know, we're trying to make it as accessible as possible for you to pick up and learn. You come here, you'll get great training in research methods that you can't get, that it's more difficult to get elsewhere. We also have access to data here that, like I mentioned before about the Canadian election study, there's all sorts of data here that we have that has yet to be exploited, to be used for research. And so there's exciting opportunities for MA students and PhD students to come in and produce publishable first-class research using data that hasn't been used yet by scholars. And so we're really excited about that, providing that opportunity for our students. Okay, so besides that, we offer some other things. If you are a graduate student, we try to give you office space. So all of our MA students get a desk, an office space. All of our PhD students all have desks and offices. So that's great. You'll have a space on campus to work, to leave your stuff, to hang out with other students and talk about ideas. We offer every year a professional development workshop. So Professor Dimitrov is our placement director. His job is to help you develop skills and help you with the job search. And so he offers a set of workshops during the year on how to do an interview, how to put together a resume, how do you maximize conferences, how do you maximize your conference experience, how do you engage in publishing for the first time, how do you do teaching. And then another unique thing about our program is we offer something called the RTDF, the Research Training and Development Fund. It's only for PhD students, and we provide up to $2,500 to PhD students to collect data, basically. So if you want to buy a sample, you want to buy questions on a survey, you want to go to Rwanda to do interviews, you want to go to Russia to visit archives, we can provide you, depending on how many applications and how much money we have, we can provide you with up to $2,500 to do that, which I think is a very unique thing in Canada. We also will allow you to apply to this fund if you want to do additional methods training. So you complete our research sequence and there's something else you just want to do that wasn't quite covered by us, you can apply, and it's offered at Michigan. Michigan offers a number of methodological schools. Or you want to go to Syracuse, or you want to go to Concordia, or you want to go to Wilfrid Laurier, all these summer research methods teaching institutes, we can provide you money to do that. And so we've done that in the past where we've used this fund to help students go do additional methods training. And then finally, you can apply to that fund for conferences. So sometimes after we pay people to do data collection, after we help people do methods training, if there's money left over, we'll give you money to subsidize your conference participation at the Canadian Political Science Association or the American APSA, the American Political Science Association. We try to create all sorts of supports for students to conduct original research and network. So let me talk a little bit now about the two programs. Our MA program is a one-year program, so we don't have two-year programs. There are two options for doing our MA program. The one which almost all students do is the first option, and it's the major research paper option. So here you take 6 half courses, so 3 in the fall, and 3 in the winter, and then you do a major research paper, which is a 40 to 50 page paper, and you find a supervisor, and you work with the supervisor over the summer to produce this 40 to 50 page paper. And the MRP can be either a literature review, where you assessing the literature and what it says about some sort of research question and how well does it answer that research question and what kind of gaps to be filled. Or it can be a piece of original research. So if you want to write sort of an academic style article where you have, a research question, a theory, a method, you collect some data, some original data, and you use secondary data and you analyze it and produce some findings, test some hypotheses and produce some findings. You can also do that as well. So those are two options within the major research paper option that you can pursue. But in both cases, you find a supervisor, you work with the supervisor, and you spend the summer researching and writing that paper. And if you don't want to do that, some students, very few students, sometimes we have one every couple of years that want to do a major thesis. And that involves 4 half courses. So you take 3 in the fall and 1 in the winter, 1 half course in the winter term. And then you start in the winter term up until August, you write a 100-page thesis. And it's a much longer, deeper investigation of some controversy in literature or whatever it may be. And that's a little different because you still work with a supervisor, you still find a supervisor, you have to develop a more formal proposal and get it approved. Eventually you have to, you defend it, it gets graded by a committee, and you have to orally defend it. So it's a bit more involved, but that option is available to you. Okay, you can also, as part of the MA program, you can get a specialization in one of the 4 subfields. So if you want to have MA in political science with a specialization in Canadian politics on your degree or transcript, you take 3 courses in that subfield. So you take 3 Canadian politics courses, and that gives you an MA specialization in Canadian politics, or 3. But we have that for all the subfields except for urban. MA students, we typically offer all of our MA students with a funding package. So this is not something you apply for. We just offer it to you. It involves a TA-ship. So you're going to be TAing for someone in the fall and winter term. It comes out to about $13,000 in TA-ship money, around there. And you're working 140 hours a term to run tutorials, to grade papers, invigilate exams and midterms. Plus, we give you some scholarship money on top of that, typically around $4,000 to $5,000. So a typical funding, and that's just money, that's a scholarship. And so that the total package is around approximately $18,000 with some variation. And we try to offer all of our MA students at least that basic package. We also, as I mentioned before, we'll offer you some office space. So the PhD program here is a 4-year program. And so the requirements are as follows. You take 6 half courses in the first year. So you have 1 required course, which is our research design course, and then you take 5 other courses. Of those 5, you need to take a core course in each of your fields. So you identify 2 fields. I'm going to be a Canadian politics person and a comparative politics person. So then you must take the Canadian core course and the core course in Canadian politics, the core course in comparative politics, and then you need to take an elective in Canadian and an elective in comparative, and then you have 1 free elective that you can take, which we encourage the methods courses. So you take 6 half courses, and then this summer you write your comprehensive exams. So what that means is you've chosen Canadian politics and comparative politics. You find a supervisor to help you study for the exams. So 1 in Canadian and 1 comparative. We give you a list, a Canadian politics reading list and a comparative politics reading list, which shows all the readings that you are expected to read and have knowledge of. And you spend all summer working with your supervisor, sometimes with other students, to study that list, to learn that list and study. And then in the fall, the fall of year 2, you write an exam. It's a 6-hour exam where you have 3 questions. So a 6-hour exam in Canadian, a 6-hour exam in comparative. Each exam has 3 questions, and you answer these questions. You have 6 hours to answer those questions. And then a couple weeks later, you orally defend those questions to your supervisor and another member of the subfield. Once you pass that, you're expected to complete your cognate skill. Your cognate skill basically is one additional methods requirement beyond the required scope and methods, the research design course. Or it could be a second language, and so there's different ways to fulfill that cognate skill, but basically you work with your dissertation supervisor to figure out what cognate skill to do. And then you turn to the dissertation, and you spend the fall and winter of year 2 on writing a proposal. It's a 20 to 25 page document that outlines what is the research question, what's the literature say, what's your theory and concepts, what's your hypotheses and methods, what are your data or cases, what do you expect to find. You work with your supervisor and your dissertation committee to put that together, and then you orally defend it. Usually you present it publicly to the department to get feedback from other faculty members and students, and then you defend it with your committee, and then you're off to the dissertation. Now the dissertation, we actually have 2 options. The traditional dissertation, which is sort of like a monograph, like a book. It's an in-depth study of one research question, why does X happen or why does Y happen? And you have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 chapters that really hammer away at that question. Or you can do it by article, where you do 3 or 4 separate studies, but that are tied loosely together. So you might have, you want to understand the role of political information in politics. And so you might have a chapter on political information elections, or political information on legislative debates. And then another chapter on political information and civil society groups. So they're all separate studies, they have separate research questions, maybe even separate data, but they all hang together because there's some broad theme that brings them together. And so we offer both these opportunities in our department. It depends on what you want to do, depends on what your supervisor is comfortable doing. It gives you a lot of flexibility. Some people just want to churn out articles that are sort of related to each other, and so you can do that in our department. Some people really want to write like a book almost style type of project, and so they can do that. You can do either one of those things here. Now, one thing that I want to note is that the program, our department is in the midst of trying to change some of these requirements. And so, if you apply and you're accepted, we may have some new requirements that are slightly different than the ones that are here. That's something that we can talk about later on. If you apply and if we give you an offer of admission, by then we should have some clarity about whether or not these requirements are going to change or soon. But what we're trying to do is provide more, give you more opportunities to train, give you more opportunities to learn. So that's what we're looking at in our program changes, is trying to increase the training that you might get to help you navigate the job market, but also help you publish better in better venues and have more success in publishing. So those are some things that are coming. But just keep that in mind. This is the current program. We're hoping to make some changes, and we'll see if we can get those through in time for next year. The University of Western Ontario provides 4 years of guaranteed funding for our PhD students. It comes with a TA-ship, which sometimes can be an RA-ship. So in some years, what we're hoping to do is that our first-year PhD students will start their first year as RAs, research assistants for our professors, so they'll get some research experience, maybe some opportunities for co-authoring. But if that doesn't happen, then you will be a TA, as we talked about. You'll get TA money, and you'll get a scholarship on top of that each year for 4 years, okay? And that basic package is somewhere around $25,000, $26,000 is what a PhD student can typically expect to get. Of course, there are opportunities for that to be topped up through external scholarships, but also, if you're a highly competitive student, there are also some internal scholarships that exist. So especially there's 2 that have been created for political theory students. So if you're a top-notch political theory student, you may be eligible for the Bernard Scholarship, which is $15,000 a year every year. There's a new one called the La Selva Scholarship, which is $10,000 every year for the 4 years. And this is, again, for top-performing political theory students. So there's all sorts of opportunities. We're very much interested in trying to teach as much as we can in-house, but also we're willing to send you out support you out to go out and get more training. We want you to have the best training that's possible. And we have a culture of that in our department. Our graduate students are very supportive of each other in terms of learning new methods training. They've organized, so we have a graduate association of political science students called GAPS. That's our graduate students, our MA and PhD students, and they do all sorts of things, social things, but they also organize methods meetings. So for instance, they used to meet every lunch last year, and they would participate in a virtual research methods seminar that would occur, and students would get together, eat lunch, faculty members would drop by, we'd watch the session and talk about what was discussed. This year, the students are running a Bayesian reading course, a course on Bayes. So they're working through a Bayes statistical textbook themselves, on their own time, and helping each other learn Bayesian logic and Bayesian inference. And Professor Armstrong has dropped by once in a while to help answer questions. So it's like, it's very exciting. If you want to learn methods training, if you're scared of methods training, but you want to learn it, we're the place to come for that. As I mentioned, there's office space for PhD students. There's the RTTF, the funding for field work and more methods training. There's also all sorts of opportunities for you to attend professional development workshops, for you to practice your presentations. So if you have a research project you're working on, we invite students to come and put together an informal or formal presentation to the department, and you get a chance to practice that. Some of our students participate in CPSA, in the Canadian Political Science Association meetings, or elsewhere at APSA. And so before they go, we organize a mock conference day where all the people presenting can practice as if they were at CPSA or APSA, and you have opportunities to do that. Western has a really nice, supportive faculty-student culture. We are very interested and very invested in helping our graduate students at the MA level and the PhD level succeed. We're trying to do all sorts of things to encourage you to succeed, to provide you with opportunities to succeed, to learn skills, to build knowledge that's transferable in the academic or the non-academic world. There's lots of faculty-student collaborations. There's lots of student-to-student collaborations. People are self-organizing these research things that the graduate students are doing. It's just great. I think if you came here, you'll see that if you decided to apply and you were admitted, that there's a real supportive faculty-student research culture and collaborative culture that's present at Western. Okay, so placement outcomes. This is just a quick list about where we placed our students. It's not an exhaustive list. It's just to show you that our students get jobs. So we've produced professors in Canada and the UK at various places, people who work for governments, for businesses, for interest groups. So that's for our PhDs. We place them in policy jobs, in political jobs. In our academic placements, we are able to place our students in tenure stream positions. And same thing with our MA students. They come here for a year, they learn a ton of skills and methods, and they're able to land all sorts of jobs, policy jobs, political jobs. Some are data scientists, some go on to law school. Lots of opportunities here. Okay, well, if you have any follow-up questions, again, feel free to contact Teresa McLaughlin. Contact information on the page about the programs or how to apply. If you have any questions about curriculum, I'm happy to answer your questions. So you can send me an email about any of your curriculum type of questions or substantive questions about the program and the kind of training we do. If you're interested, we could even put you in touch with some of our students maybe, and if you want to get their perspectives on the programs. But otherwise, thank you everyone for attending the session. I hope it was useful, and I hope you all apply, and we look forward to receiving your applications and reviewing them.